switched gyms because the first one was always packed. Not in a good way. Not with people I recognized or ever talked to. It was always full of strangers. I figured I'd be more motivated somewhere smaller, quieter. The kind of place where someone might nod if they saw me 2 days in a row. The new gym was a 15-minute drive from my apartment. Not ideal, but it was clean and overlooked a small grocery store parking lot. The windows were tinted, but you could still catch a view if the light hit right. I started going after work around 6:30 p.m., 4 times a week. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. I kept that rhythm for almost 2 months. I noticed him during a leg day. He came in right after I started stretching, black hoodie, wireless earbuds, gray sweatpants. Mid-30s maybe, nondescript. I probably wouldn't have remembered him if he hadn't been there the next day too. Same entrance timing, same general outfit, same indifferent expression. It became a pattern. I arrived, swiped my card, tied my hair back. He followed, always within 5 minutes. No eye contact, no small talk. I didn't want to make assumptions. Plenty of people hit the gym after work. Maybe we just had similar schedules. But then I tried going earlier, just to test it. 4:30 p.m. on a Thursday. He came in at 4:38. That night I left in a rush. Not scared, just tired. My car was parked near the back exit next to a delivery truck. As I approached, I saw him sitting inside his car, parked directly across from mine. Engine off, windows half down, eyes straight ahead. He didn't look at me, didn't even flinch. I unlocked my door and got in. He didn't move. I sat behind the wheel for a full minute. He stayed put. No phone, no music, just sitting. I backed out without turning my head. When I checked the rearview mirror at the intersection, his car was still there. I skipped Friday. Saturday morning, I changed my settings on the gym app. I booked a slot for 9 a.m. I wanted to be early, unpredictable. There were only 3 other cars in the lot when I arrived. I swiped in, walked to the free weights. Halfway through my second set, I heard the door open behind me. Same hoodie, same expression. This time, he walked past me and picked a treadmill facing the windows. I kept my back to him. Finished my reps, wiped the bench, moved to the other side of the gym. He stayed for exactly 30 minutes, left without looking back. I told myself to stop noticing. Stop giving it energy. It could be nothing. People are creatures of habit. Doesn't mean anything. Then came Monday. I didn't go. Tuesday I went at 7:15 p.m., late enough to throw things off. I stayed in my car until the parking lot emptied out a little. When I finally walked in, I scanned the room. He wasn't there. I trained fast, focused. Half an hour in, I heard the front door beep. I didn't turn around. I picked up heavier weights, pushed harder. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. After another 20 minutes, I grabbed my bag and walked to the locker room. When I came out, I spotted him near the water fountain, staring at the wall. Not drinking, not stretching, just standing. I walked straight past him and didn't slow down. As I reached my car, I realized something I hadn't noticed before. My rear passenger window was smeared, not fogged up. Smeared, like someone had wiped it with a damp cloth. I unlocked the doors, opened the back. Nothing was missing, nothing was added. Just a faint outline of a handprint on the outside. I didn't sleep well. The next morning I called in sick, stayed home, curtains drawn, phone on silent. I didn't move much, kept checking the hallway light under the door. Nothing happened. Wednesday evening I went to the grocery store under the gym. I parked in the middle of the lot, in full view of the front entrance. I wanted to see if he came out. I spent 45 minutes pretending to compare snack bars and trail mix. He didn't show. Back at my car, I opened the trunk to load my bag. There was a note taped to the inside. I hadn't seen it when I arrived. Plain white paper. One line. You always pick the same parking spot. I removed it without reacting. Drove straight to the police station. The officer at the front desk took my statement. She was polite, methodical. I showed her the note. I described the man, I explained the pattern. She nodded, wrote it down, asked if I had photos or video. I didn't. They filed a report, suggested I vary my routine and avoid confrontation, recommended a dash cam. I thanked her and left. She said they'd let me know if anything turned up. I never saw his car again at the gym. I kept going, changing my times, changing my routes. Nothing happened for 3 weeks, until I came home one evening and found my front door slightly ajar. No signs of forced entry, just unlocked. Inside, nothing was taken. Nothing moved, nothing obvious. Except for the gym flyer on my kitchen table, one I had thrown out months ago. Clean, unfolded, untouched. I moved apartments 2 days later. New neighborhood, new locks, new gym. He hasn't shown up. Yet. The room I got was smaller than expected, tucked at the end of a narrow hallway on the 3rd floor. It had one window, painted shut, and a heating unit that hummed constantly. The previous resident had left behind a half-broken bookshelf and a stain on the carpet under the desk. I moved in late August, 2 days before orientation. Campus was still empty. Only the international students and early arrivals had shown up. I liked the quiet. I used those days to unpack slowly, make lists, and figure out the layout of the building. The dorm was old, brick on the outside and hollow on the inside. You could hear everything: coughs, hair dryers, zippers, footsteps, even whispers, if the hallway was quiet enough. The first time I heard it was the second night. I was in bed scrolling on my phone. It was past midnight. A faint tapping sound came from the far corner of the room. At first, I thought it was the radiator settling. Then I noticed it was too rhythmic. 3 short taps, then silence. Then again. The sound came from below, from the space under the bed. I didn't check. I got up, turned on the overhead light, and stayed awake with my laptop open until morning. Nothing else happened. I convinced myself it was pipes, or maybe a mouse. Something easy, something that didn't need investigating. The room stayed quiet the next night, and the one after that. Classes started, people filled the halls. My roommate never showed up, so I had the space to myself. I kept the door locked at all times. I slid my suitcase under the bed to take up the space. The tapping came back in October. It was louder this time. Director, like fingernails on wood. Always after midnight. I stopped keeping my suitcase under there. I bought storage bins and wedged them tight against the wall just to block the opening. Still, the noise returned. Same timing, same pattern. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more. One night, I waited with my phone flashlight ready. I pulled the bins out fast, aimed the light underneath. Nothing, just dust. No holes in the floor. No sign of animals. I cleaned under the bed, vacuumed, sprayed everything with disinfectant. The tapping stopped, then midterms came. I stayed up late, barely ate. My sleep schedule was ruined. I started waking up at odd hours. Once, I opened my eyes and saw the closet door open just a crack. I always kept it shut. I blamed the draft. Another time, my desk chair had rolled a few inches across the floor. Probably bumped it without noticing. The RA held a fire drill one Thursday night. Everyone filed out. It was raining. We stood around in pajamas and hoodies while the alarms blared. I chatted with the girl from the room next door. She said she liked my hoodie. I told her she had glitter in her hair. When we went back in, I noticed my door was unlocked. I always locked it. Every time. No exceptions. My laptop was still there. Nothing was missing. I figured I must have forgotten. Maybe I was distracted. A few days later, I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to the sound of movement. Not in the hallway. Inside the room. The desk chair squeaked. The closet door shifted. My eyes adjusted. I didn't move. I stayed still until daylight. That morning, I found my textbook open on the wrong page. A page I hadn't read yet. I remembered placing the bookmark. It wasn't there. I bought a small door alarm and a wedge. Started placing them every night. Slept with my phone under the pillow. Kept my shoes by the bed. Weeks passed. No sounds. No movement. I let my guard down. Removed the wedge one night because the door wouldn't close properly. Around 4 a.m., the light from the hallway spilled under the door. I saw two shadows. Feet. Standing just outside. They didn't knock. I stared until my eyes hurt. When I finally got up, the hall was empty. No sound. No doors closing. Just that light. I pushed my dresser in front of the door the next day. Finals came. Everyone packed up. I stayed late because of a work-study shift. Only a few of us were still in the building. The night before I left, I started emptying the closet. Found an old spiral notebook tucked in the far back, behind the shelf panel. It wasn't mine. The cover was torn. Inside were notes, dated from the previous year. Most pages were blank. A few had lists of names, schedules. One name repeated. Mine. I hadn't lived there the year before. Taped to the last page was a photo. It was dark and blurry. But it was my bed. My legs, taken from underneath. I didn't sleep that night. Packed everything. Left before sunrise. Reported it to housing. They said they'd look into it. I checked the student directory the next week. One name appeared under my room number for the year before. Male student, suspended. No further information. The first time it shut off, I assumed it was the building. It was late June, the kind of heat that sits on your skin. I'd moved into the apartment 3 months earlier, 4th floor, west-facing, cheap rent. The listing said great light, which turned out to mean blinding at 3 p.m. The air conditioning worked fine during the spring, but as soon as the temperature hit 90, it started acting up. That first outage lasted 10 minutes. I was on the couch watching a movie. 1 minute, the unit was humming. The next, silence. I fiddled with the remote, checked the wall outlet, even flipped the breaker. Before I could text the landlord, it powered back on. The second time, it stayed off for 2 hours. I filed a maintenance request through the app. Got a reply the next morning. Unit inspected. No problem found, nothing else. No explanation. I started noticing that it always happened in the evening, between 7 and 9 p.m. The rest of the time, the unit worked normally. I recorded videos showing the temperature climbing while the screen blinked. The building manager said maybe I was using too many appliances at once. I wasn't. In early July, It cut out 5 nights in a row. I bought a thermometer and placed it next to the vent. I documented everything. When it reached 84 degrees, I turned the unit off, manually, and opened the windows. The next morning, the system ran fine again. Then I noticed the vent cover was loose, slightly tilted. I hadn't touched it. I got a screwdriver and tried to tighten the screws. 2 turned easily. The third wouldn't catch. I pulled it out and saw the hole had been widened, as if someone had twisted it too hard. The cover still fit, but not flush. I pressed it back and left it. 3 nights later, the AC cut out again. I left the remote on the windowsill and went to bed. Around 1 a.m., I woke up and thought I heard something fall in the living room. A small object, maybe a book. I waited, listened, nothing else. In the morning, the vent cover was slightly more ajar, half an inch at most. I took a photo. I didn't have pets. I didn't have visitors. I lived alone. The next day, I worked from home and kept the vent in my peripheral vision. Nothing moved. I pushed my desk closer, taped a sticky note to the wall, aligned with the vent. If it shifted, I'd know. That night, I slept lightly. I woke up to the AC restarting at 3:14 a.m. The note was on the floor. I didn't tell the landlord. I already knew what he'd say. I contacted a friend who used to do HVAC work. I asked if it was possible for someone to access ductwork from another apartment. He said, in older buildings, yes. Depends on the layout. I asked if someone could use it to watch another unit. He said, not unless they were in the same duct. Then he laughed. I stopped answering. That weekend, I borrowed a small inspection camera from campus security. I said I was doing a short film. They didn't ask questions. I ran the cable through the vent and angled it into the duct. The video showed dust, lint, and a dark rectangular tunnel. About 6 feet in, the image glitched, then it sharpened. On the playback, I paused the frame. On the left side of the shot, there was something shiny. A lens, round, mounted, facing the vent. I shut my laptop and sat still for a long time. Then, I packed a small bag, locked the door, and went to stay with a friend. I didn't call the police immediately. I wasn't sure what to say. There was no footage of a person. Just a device. I needed more. 2 days later, I returned during daylight with a screwdriver and gloves. I removed the vent cover entirely. Behind it, the duct was slightly widened. Not enough to crawl through, but enough to work with tools. I reached in carefully. There were cables, black tape, a small mount screwed into the duct wall, and a wireless camera, battery-powered, no brand. I placed it in a shoebox and took it with me. The police logged it and opened a report. They asked if I had enemies, if I was being threatened. I said no. I told them about the AC issues, the timing, the noises. They said they'd investigate. They didn't offer a timeline. A week later, I got a call. They had traced the signal to another unit in the building, 1 floor below. The tenant had recently moved out, left no forwarding address, paid cash. When they searched his apartment, they found more devices, multiple vents modified, holes drilled behind mirrors, no names on any of the equipment. He had been living there for 13 months. I broke my lease the next day, paid the fee, didn't ask for a refund. I moved into a newer building, top floor, concrete walls, central air. I haven't used a window unit since.